Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Adefemi Akinsanya. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Rubin.
Good
morning, Vinvai. Good morning, Rufai.
Morning,
We were just discussing the general election results just then, how it doesn't seem like anybody's surprised by the results. I knew Keir Starmer was going to be the next Prime Minister, but I don't know, I am kind of surprised by the amount of the majority. I know that all Essex polls looked at around 410, 416 seats, but I didn't think they'd get that many seats, but they did.
But they didn't get a lot of popular votes.
And
Well, there's that too.
That's to show you that the people didn't really come on. In fact, Corbyn got more popular votes
Then him, and you saw he held on to his seat in Islington as an independent
candidate. So
we'll
he
get
didn't
to
get a lot
it.
of popular votes.
We will.
So, I mean, it was just people voting against the Tories.
I agree.
Not really
right.
Starmer having a new wave of idea like the new Labour of 97. I mean, we're just talking about the numbers.
Right.
Tony Blair, 97
We will get
election,
there. We'll get there.
480,
Because otherwise we won't
2001,
touch our papers.
412 seats. I mean,
I agree.
not
let's
that kind
say
of big
that
wave.
the Conservatives did better than expected.
There's
Yeah.
that too.
The prediction was that they were not going to get more than 65 seats,
Right.
which will make it the biggest wipeout since 1832. But they managed; they got up to 131
They did.
seats. But the Labour Party didn't do badly either.
Not at all.
Because the prediction was that they will have a majority of 212 seats, but they had 170. So in a sense, the people of Britain, they've spoken their mind.
They have.
They want change. They're tired of 14 years of the Conservatives. This is the fifth minister now, in 5 years. So the Conservatives, they couldn't just get their
act together.
Their acts together.
But now
And that's
we've got enough
partly
time.
why Liz Truss has lost. That's why Jacob Rees-Mogg has lost. That is probably why many other
Penny Mordaunt.
prominent members of the Tory, have lost. What will happen next is
Yeah,
that there's
Dr.
now
Rubin,
going to
you
be
have to hold
a
your
battle.
thoughts. You have to hold your thoughts. They're wonderful. We can talk about these politics forever and ever. Let's look at these newspapers first. We'll take a look at the front page of this day. And two stories that jump out. They're very related. Firstly, the unveiling of President Tinubu's 2 trillion naira facility, the stabilisation plan, and also the inauguration of this economic coordinating council. They've been mandated to change the economy, revitalize it, turn it around by the end of the year. They've been given 6 months, so it'll be interesting to see whether or not you will share in the president's optimism that this facility, this council will be able to do the work of turning this economy around come 2025, or at least the end of this own year. From this day, we'll take a look at the front page of the New Telegraph. And there's quite a positive story on the front page of the New Telegraph. The governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, you see him pictured there alongside many retirees from Lagos State, because the state government there have cleared outstanding pension payments and also have announced for 2,000 retirees, they've announced a pension bond certificate, and that totals around 4.5 billion naira. And they say that will go a long way to protect civil servants as they pass through their careers and go on to retirement. And this reminds us of the story we were looking at last week on the front pages of the papers, where it looked at a federal standpoint, the huge ballooning numbers of pensions that have gone unpaid. So it is definitely something that's been welcomed and congratulated here in Lagos State. From the front page of the New Telegraph, let's take a look at the Daily Independent. And they are again focused on, is this the Daily Independent from today? They're looking definitely at the economy, 100%. But also there has been issues and discussions about this money being injected into the economy, which we discussed, but also about flooding. To the bottom of the page there, you see that 18 states and the FCT, they are expected to be affected by river flooding this month. And that's a warning from the federal government, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. And from there, we'll take a look at the front page of The Guardian. And they're looking at a whole amalgamation of regional politics. Of course, I know that you guys have been discussing what's been happening in River State, what's been happening in Edo State, and they decry the power games happening in those states. But also, just underneath there, you do see a little bit of a story looking at the EFCC and the NFIU, both decrying money laundering and terrorism financing ravaging coffers here in Nigeria. And then lastly, our last Nigerian paper will be Business Day. They are looking at the queues in fuel and petrol stations that we've been seeing across the country. And they say that contributing to that is the NNPC's $6 billion dollar payment, that backlog rather, that is contributed to those queues that we're seeing at the pump. So those are our Nigerian stories. I know that we are eager to discuss what's been happening internationally, especially what's happening in the UK, but do you have any thoughts on what stories we'll be discussing on the front page of Nigerian papers today? Dr. Rubin, I know I stopped you earlier. Go ahead.
Just a brief comment on the Economic Council that President Tinubu has set up. Now, mostly, government officials. Out of the 31-member council, you have 13 persons from the private sector. I've looked at the list. Some of them are the usual people, that are always invited. And we've had this Economic Council all the time. The question is, it's an advisory body. Even if it offers the best advice, would the Tinubu government take the advice? Now, there are issues on the table. They say they have a stabilization fund, economic fund, 2 trillion naira. Well, that's an objective. They're giving it a window of 6 months. And the council is to look at such issues as social welfare, energy, agriculture, and all of that. The thing to say is that we've had many, advisory councils on finance, on the economy. We never saw any concrete difference. We're hoping that it will be possible to measure the impact of this new effort by the president of Nigeria in terms of the difference in the lives of the people. If within the 1 year of the Economic Council, the price of rice goes down, the price of the cost of living goes down, then we'll be able to say, well, some progress has been made in this regard. Otherwise, it will be no better than just giving some people, 13 persons, who have not been part of government directly before, access to the corridors of power. And we hope that the contributions will be quality contributions and that the president will listen to them. Well, the vice president is a member of the council. He's vice chairman of the council. So he leads the National Economic Council, which involves the governors of the various states. We expect also synergy between the two structures that have now been put on the table by the Tinubu administration.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I want to talk about this Samoa thing that has been going on. So there's a declaration, by the federal government. There's a declaration document that is out as regards the Article 1 on policy coherence, cooperation on international, cooperation on international organizations and forums, human rights and democracy and rule of law. So our parties, and this was a reaction to the declaration by the Nigerian government, says, it's the understanding of Nigeria that these articles to this party promote dialogue through consultation and facilitation of adoption of common position on the global stage. In this connection, the agreement does not create an obligation for the parties to have common position regardless of the national and constitutional matter. That's the case of the LGBT that's been coming up.
Yes.
And as a sovereign nation, Nigeria's commitment is based on and within the context of Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and Nigeria Constitution has provisions on human rights. So I think this declaration just goes further to be able to talk about the fact that, and the concerns, what the government has rebutted by saying that it will not be an open door for LGBT rights to be promoted and things like that and all of that because we have pre-existing laws.
Zinbai, we're going to come to you in just a second. I want to run through the rest of these papers and then we'll spend the last bit of our time discussing. If we look at some African papers, we've got the front page of the Daily Nation in Kenya, and they are looking again at finance, the cost of living, but this time there's a stronger focus on students and the burden of student loans as another vehicle, as another example of the financial burdens falling heavy on the people of Kenya. From the Daily Nation, we'll take a look at the Citizen essay. South Africa's government of national unity seems to be ruffling some type of feathers because some current civil servants under the ANC who have been enjoying their positions under the guise of and the protections of an ANC government, they have been worried that they will lose their jobs with this mass coalition that's been happening there. And then, of course, let's look at our international papers. I know I was going to mention the Washington Post and education gaps. there, but also let's take a look at the Daily Telegraph and the Mirror, both of them focusing on the Labour landslide. You've got Sir Keir Starmer, who is due to be announced as Prime Minister just in a couple of hours at midday UK time here in Nigeria too. And also their headline on the Mirror, "Here we go," because again, it is definitely going to be a brand new government. It'll be interesting to see what part of his policies and his manifestos are actually going to be materialized, because if you remember, when he was campaigning to become leader of the Labour Party, he had a whole host of ideas, many of which he had to abandon in order to become leader of the Labour Party. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not that happens again today. Vinbai, I know you haven't had a chance to
Yes, very quickly, just to come back to Nigerian papers on The Guardian, there's a story about EKEDC disconnecting Luth and CMUL because of a 250 million electricity debt. Now, I mean, Lagos University Teaching Hospital, College of Medicine, University of Lagos, these are institutions that people go to because they can't afford to go anywhere else. So to find that they are having to operate on generator, and the generator has operating times from this time to that time, they're operating on inverters now, they don't have electricity. I mean, come on.
Is a lot
it really is a lot. So that's something that really needs to be looked into. But Adefemi, it's always a pleasure. I wish we could delve into all the issues, but there's...
my thoughts on the UK election. And I was saying, that what you are likely to witness now is a battle for the leadership of the Tory party.
Okay.
Rishi Sunak has said, now that he has his seat back, that he will lead the party during the transition period. And Kemi Badnoch and others are already positioning themselves to lead the party.
Do you think Kemi could do it?
Well, her name is on the list, and she seems to be interested, and she's articulate, and she has very serious issues that she can push. But we'll see when that battle begins.
All right. Thank you again. This is phenomenal.